Okay, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all here. This is going to be an exciting reading. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Ioana. For the Love of Woodstock, I'm just fascinated by the title as well as the work. So I'm happy to introduce to you Ioana Cosma, for those of you who don't know her. She's a university lecturer and poet from Romania. Her first volume of poetry by the book was published with the European Institute Press in Romania. She has a PhD in comparative literature from the University of Toronto and has published several academic articles on 20th century literature and philosophy. For the Love of Woodstock is her third book of poetry, published by Silverbow Publishing. The other two are In Evo and The Psychogeography of Love. Ioana is also a playwright, and her first play, The Men from the Mechanical Age, has been published and is forthcoming from Fleas on the Dog magazine in Canada. If you enjoyed this reading, For the Love of Woodstock, and you would like to buy a copy of it, it's available on order from retail bookstores and libraries in the USA, Canada, the UK, Europe, and Australia through iPage distribution, Catalogue, which most retailers and libraries use, or you can order it online through Amazon or Silverbow Publishing's website. Now I'm going to ask Deborah Kelly to read from the foreword.
Just want to say how honored I am and what a privilege it has been to write the foreword to this book. It is indeed one of the loveliest books I've read in a very long time. I really enjoyed it. It really moved me, I guess, because of my hippie experiences way back when. That was 50 years ago now. It's like, oh, mind-blowing. Anyway, here we go. Bless that man. In 1969, Max Yasgur rented out 600 acres of his farm near Bethel, New York, to the largest gathering of youth ever in history. He was happy to host what he thought would be about 50,000 young people on his farm. Instead, Mr. Yasgur ended up shocked. 500,000 hippies showed up to celebrate freedom, love, and music on his land. There was only one accidental death, which was in no way connected to drugs, and no fistfights. Amazing. See what humans can do when we really want to. We were a lost and unhappy generation of teenagers. Many of us had run away from home, and many had no home to go to. We started taking psychedelics to escape, and in our escape, found many inner treasures, which Ioana Cosma has captured beautifully in this poetry. A deep understanding of what this generation was searching for. 3 glorious days of love, peace, and music. We were in heaven. Some of the biggest and best rock and roll bands played, musical legends of today, while hippies dreamed and swayed in the field. The Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin with her raunchy, drawn-out vocal cords, Richie Havens, and so many more who are looked at today as rock and roll idols of the past. We showed the world peace was possible. We showed the world how much more beautiful and free life could be. Our youth came out of Woodstock with a dream to change the world. It was an era unlike any other mankind had or has since experienced. The psychological and emotional growth was exponential. It was as if we had stolen this wisdom from a future time. We wanted to share it, but adults did not want to listen. We lived, loved, made love, made music, built communities we called communes, and we learned to live together in a supportive and loving way. Those of our generation who did not sell out to corporate America on down the years still await the coming of this world we knew was possible. Instead, they ignored us. Though they ignored us, we brought forward with us a word that would bring us the peace of meditation, a word that would remind us always of how close we came to building the society we dreamed of, a word that could take us back to this way of being within us whenever we wish to visit. And this word is Om. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It was a pleasure to hear.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And now Candace James of Silver Bowl Publishing is going to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. And they will be very few words. I just want to say how thrilled, pleased, and honored we are to have this for the Love of Woodstock, Ioana's third book with Silver Bowl Publishing, out into the world now for everybody's reading pleasure. And now we're going to get to hear Ioana read from it herself. Over to you, Ioana.
Thank you so much, Candice. And I'd like to thank all of you, Candice, Deb, Carol, for all your support. Just a very short word, just to mention the fact that Candice was the first in the Western world to read and appreciate my writing. And I'll be forever grateful for that. Thank you also, Deb, for the wonderful foreword you wrote. I couldn't have thought of a better foreword to this book and company. Okay, I'll start with the poem that's based on a song by Melanie, Tuning My Guitar, which is the first song I ever heard from Woodstock. It's called, I retitled it, Selam. She never quite emerged, although she was prepared. The canopy of song was too thick for submissive breathing, so she took to tuning her guitar like a distant cousin she discovered on the trip from cradle to grave. The long ordeal was almost over. She'd spared her dreams, but not her soul, that had been sold by a drunken pirate to the children of Revelation. Inside the tower and onto glassy pavements, she saw the reflection of sin. Of all the people who once had gathered inside the invisible church that sang for redemption, she tuned her guitar once more to the sounds of the orchestra of clearings, seen in visions by prophets and priests of peace. She tried to breathe once more, but couldn't. The idol's foot had fallen flat on the fragile temple of love. She was barely alive when they found her. They all applauded the performance of holy doves. The next one is a very important song from Woodstock, Chet Powers and Dino Valenti's Get Together, and the poem is titled Get Together. There's ivy tied to her hair, caressing his ecstatic look. There are children that got the answer way before they learned to ask. I sometimes see visions of freedom and beauty, but they're blurrier now, and they've lost their luster. I sometimes chant with the freed people of Babylon, but there's always the man who asks for his son's ransom. In the light, the contour light, there's peace of mind, and there's a crowd that escaped bathing and blessed like a suckling babe. To these eccentric sights, we tied our hopes and aspirations of kids who'd been numbered, sold, and cut to the bone by those invisible hands that sift chaff from wheat as if souls were something to eat. Get together, even for a moment in time, humanity devoid of pretension and greed, born from the choirs that call for a man, a woman, and their blossom. Santana couldn't be overlooked from this series. Their song Soul Sacrifice is what I base my poem The Ritual on. Bless the return each summer of the songs that sing, of the dancing daughter, of the blasted field, the crowds that call for blood and for the lives of lambs, invoking rain and sorrow with their makeup masks. Bless the whip that lashes like flames on witches' fires, the stained soil, the dirty water, the maiden's shame coming back with nostalgia in the eyes of men, each hallowed midnight that rings like a choir. Bless the hand that beats and the hand that rips shirts off proud shoulders. It took its time like a soldier of fortune to protect stubs from wings and shards from eyes like windows. It will one day rest on a breathless chest. Bless the blood-drinking people and the brothers that kill scapegoats of intolerance, vestals of defeat. Keep singing their return, their glorious hymn to the gods with feet of clay and hearts of soot. Another one that's based on Melanie's Beautiful People. It's called The Beauty in You, and it's one of my favorite in the book. The beauty in her was the beauty in submerged cities of convenience. They lie hidden from sight for centuries until a mad diver stumbles upon them in his search for starfish and pearls. Closed eyes, she traveled in the same subway until a handshake began to signify more than a handshake, a grin more than a grin, crossed legs more than crossed legs, like a choreography of symbols weaving up a ladder. First, she saw the other story dimly, then it became sonorous, like vibrating air. She could hear the music inside the skin touching the iron bar, the diverting eye, falling blankly on a commercial for sunglasses. As she cleared the soot of tired workers' foreheads, the makeup of humble secretaries' cheeks, the ink of little children's fingers, she perceived their beauty and also their defeat. Her own now to behold, like a love to admire from a distance and with care. The scolding mothers became the tides that drown under the force of the moon. The worst, a parody of puppets that play on a stage set. Beauty destroyed temporarily. As the world recovered its beauty, she became aware of her own appearance, resembling a dragonfly that ogles the flower in bloom and softly touches the watery surface with its blue back, the gentleness of everything. I'll read one more from this, two more from The Love of Woodstock, and then I'll pause and read a couple from my previous volumes. A story untold based on Eskimo Blue Day. And it starts with a quote from the lyrics of the song, quote, "But the human nature doesn't mean shit to a tree," unquote. Yet it might get an idea the minute it gets felt. All lies in the decisiveness of the cut. Our stories are like that, made of tree mass and black tar, a heavy loaded shotgun we use to aim at no one. The stories of trees are written and told in darkened rooms by men that have felt the grace of timber on their hardened skins. All they have is this freeze frame, an impression that lies between evidence and smoke, where the former is traceless and the latter pregnant. A story untold. And as I've accustomed Candice, there's always an Ars Poetica poem in my volumes, and this is it, Stranger Than Fiction, based on the song I'm a Stranger Here. Whoever said fiction is strange was lying. She never saw the soft tendrils as they go to work, the night sky in a woman's heart, or the sad children's eyes in their worlds apart. Must have been a poet. They say poets lie. Anyway, the best things I know about life are from books written by men who swore to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. Go challenge Dostoevsky, for instance. It was stranger than fiction when my body was put to rest, released and marked like a slaughterhouse beast. How hated the blood heritage. How disconsolate the Black Widow and her two-penny opera of love. Fiction was never strange to me. It was my true home. I cannot find chaos of mind here. I shouldn't be expected to abhor the ones that were tender to me, the night and story nurses. And now I'll read one poem from the Psychogeography of Love and one from Inevo. I'll begin with my favorite poems in the Psychogeography of Love. The first one is called The World in Your Eyes, which is a poem about empathy. The tender timber that weeps with the land, stacked in the heavy trucks of consent, our heads bowing to this slashing, as if the trees had fallen from the skies like water. Your brothers bears and wolves cast out from taigas and mountain crests, roaming the cities insomniac and hungry, our own hunger never appeased. I once felt guilty for breaking the bread. This gentle treading through the world that your eyes touch like a lover, not wanting to hurt more than a bee would, this infinitesimal intrusion in the lives of insects and plants. The scopic city adorned from within the scaffold of immigrant lives and the ones on the margins, I tiptoed my way through and out of it, never meaning to awake the unassuming children. I surrounded myself with hills the shape of your shoulders, with seas the color of your eyes. The sky had the weight of your ancestors from Huron, and the ground beneath my feet pounded like your heart. The poem now that gives the title to the volume, The Psychogeography of Love. From the four corners of attention, from the seven seas of compassion, from the three transfictions in time, I gave birth to you and you gave birth to me. The city became like pilgrims in time, the parks tokens of our passage. My homeland grew symbolic and soft, like the architecture of our encounters. I saw your veins like rampant rivers, and your silhouette bathed in the sun, the sweaty streets of distance, the green gardens of delight. The absent city was born from this perception. It is still in the making, for lonely builders take their time. Walls crumble overnight, and the Pacific Rim is still far out of sight. And now two more poems from In Avo, from my first volume published with Silver Bow. The Brain's Dream. Inside the mind, there is room enough for comet tails and moonbeams that shiver on a swathing synapse. The brain's a cosmos in itself. It has 12 chartered territories, like the apostles and petals of Anahata. When everything is lit in blinding light, the pineal will dream a primrose dream, and the withered olive tree will bear fruit again. And the reversal law. The sparrow's balance while it's sleeping, hanging on a thin branch from its petite claws, the mother taking a 5-minute nap while holding a fragile infant, tulips folding their petals in overnight to rise again the next day more resplendent, a vision of Don Quixote falling asleep in his fabulous quest on the back of Rocinante, soldiers slumbering in the trenches while grenades explode them into non-existence, stars twinkling, limbs infinitesimally slower, the reversal law throughout the universe. And I'll go back to my latest volume. So I'll go back to my Woodstock volume. This is from the second part, the 70s Songs of Innocence. The pill, the wine, the half-baked bread, the tear gas, and the wooden language to stifle your song of innocence and freedom, a mockingbird seemed beatnik vision. You were set apart, set free, and muted too soon. Your trapeze pants, long hair, and large brimmed hats, a mirror of independence from the long night's reign of fear. You were looking for Xanadu, and you found Xanax, like in between angels at the end of days, becoming numb on the tepid waters of relief from everlasting pain. I'll end my reading with the last poem in the volume, What David Said. He split himself into three quiet magi who sang the fourth and the fifth, a hallelujah for the sinners and the mad. He was one, but divided, like Osiris's limbs shattered over the plains that an unwilling Isis gathered in her city of music and words. What David said when he saw her was a droplet of blood falling on the unwritten page that undressed the moon like a blank cocoon. And he sang all his love and sorrow and tribulations, and the three magi wept on the silver screen beside themselves in a dusty November, entranced and submissive like deja vu. What David, and she listened with care, said was a story that no man had dared tell before, about a time when love was pure and immense, bigger than butterflies' wings, and stronger than the soul's universe. Thank you.